This one right here is the YouTube.
Solid.
Okay, and this over here is the IG. This one I don't think I'm going to move. I'll just leave this one right where it's standing. But that one you can move around if you feel like following me or if you feel like zooming in. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. It's Pop Shrooms coming to you live from the Detroit Mush Lab. I'm probably going to, this is the IG camera over here running a kind of simulcast, but we're going to be taping this for YouTube. And for YouTube, it's field capacity, proper field capacity in mycology. So we're going to take about 7 or 8 minutes and just explain field capacity, kind of what it is and why it matters. Field capacity is a technical term in almost in hydrology and in soil management that has to do with how much soil, how much moisture, how much water is being retained in the soil. And different soils, obviously, are going to have different retention rates. A loamier soil versus a soil that's clayey or one that is perhaps has a lot of pebbles in it. Each will have different drainage values, and there's literally equations that they use to come up with drainage and things like this in the science of hydrology and soil management. None of that matters that much in mycology. What field capacity is to us in mycology is when we go to make our cakes, our bulk cakes, when we're mixing our substrate mix, which I have a little bit of here, when we go to mix our substrate mix in with our spawn, we want our substrate to have a certain level of moisture to begin with. The reason for that is because you can pretty much imply that that's all the water that you're going to add to that cake except for some general misting over the course of the next 21 days. So your original water amount is critical, and it can't be too much. In mycology, too much water generally leads to contamination. Not enough water leads to poor fruit and often doesn't fruit at all. So when we talk about field capacity, I'm going to bring this little graph just a little closer to the camera. Field capacity is simply, at this point here, you're completely a saturated soil. At this point here, you're really dry. Field capacity is that right amount that'll give you a good place for whatever it is that you're trying to grow. That's the level. We're going to show you what that is here manually. And I'll show you this other graph that's kind of cool I found. Same thing. This is actually some of the technical ideas with field capacity, but you basically have available water. At a certain point, you end up completely depleted, and at a certain point, you actually end up way oversaturated. What we want is this mean line here, and it's pretty easy to get and maintain. So, what is field capacity? I think we just explained that. How does it apply in mycology? It applies because we need that moisture to begin our cakes. And ultimately, here's what we do. How do we test our field capacity? When we're originally making our substrate, we're taking a gypsum, we're taking a cocoa coir, and we're taking vermiculite. Those are our two major ingredients. And sometimes we'll add 10% or something of another, maybe a gypsum, coffee grinds, worm castings. Believe it or not, often nothing. Yeah, Pops, it's that basic. Sometimes it's just 60% cocoa and 40% vermiculite, or 65-35, literally all I need. Because let's remember one other thing. I digress for a moment. But your substrate is exactly that. While it may have some nutritional value, most of the nutritional value that you're putting into the cake's coming in on the grain that the mycelium's coming in on. And your substrate is a net. It's a foundation. It's a place for the mycelium to knit and web itself through all of the areas And that's why you don't want it too compact and too wet, because the mycelium has to have room to grow and knit through. And you'll notice you start seeing to have a healthy cake when it starts shrinking in, because the mycelium is sucking in the moisture and pulling in and knitting in this substrate cake that we began with. So, how much water do we add? That's the key. I'm going to give you the quickest formula that we use here. It's very basic. We do 65-35 a lot of the time, meaning just cocoa and just vermiculite. We've already calculated, we use these bricks of compacted cocoa. We've already calculated that these weigh approximately 1.5 pounds every time I weigh one. 1.6, 1.5, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. They're always right about 1.5. So I have 1.5 pounds of compressed cocoa. We've also calculated if we take a quart of vermiculite, 2 of them, that comes out to almost 0.5 pounds. So this is 0.5 pounds, this is 1.5 pounds. So basically we're looking at 65, 35. We already have them pre-measured. So then what we're going to do, how we get our, and not only are we field capacitating our water, our substrate at the same time, we're also going to do a bucket tech where it's steam pasteurized. And that's for another day when we talk about pasteurization and sterilization. We're going to have a class on that. But for today, what we do is we take this brick and we put it in the bottom of the bucket. And we take 4 quarts of boiling water. And we pour it on top of that compressed brick. And we cover it and we leave it for about an hour. And we come back and it's really, the compressed brick is no longer compressed. It's now puffed out and it's experienced a lot of the water. But it's pretty dry actually in there. Then we're going to go ahead and take and add the 2 jars of vermiculite. So now all of the substrate material is in there. We close the lid and we shake it up and mix it up real good so that semi-wet cocoa now has the vermiculite in it. It's now again pretty dry. We're going to take another 4 quarts of boiling water, pour it on top of that and close it up tightly, and we probably don't look at it again for about 6 hours, or at least close to field capacity, because we've done it enough times to know. So those are formulas you can use. However, we're going to show you how to check your field capacity, because that's going to be the key. I'm going to final thought on field capacity. Too much water is way worse than not enough, even at this stage right now.
Way worse.
Why? Because we can always add water. And to subtract water, you really can't. So you end up adding more soil amendments, more substrate to try to get it back to a field capacity. You're better starting closer to dry. And then, even if you're not at great field capacity when you're in the bucket, you can be, as you're building your cake, be adding and misting and adding more moisture so it gets the proper field capacity even in your tray. But having said that, and closing out this class, let me give you a view of good field capacity. How do you know what it is when you have it, Pops? It's a simple way to call a squeeze test. Boop, squeeze test. We're just gonna reach in, grab our soil, and we squeeze mighty hard. And you should just see the smallest little rivulet of water coming out of your hand. And if you do, you're at field capacity. If you're not getting a little squeeze of water out, chances are you have to add a little bit of water or mist a little bit as you're building your cake. And if it's too much, now is a good time to go ahead and add a little bit of extra substrate and try to get that back to the right field capacity. So we're going to reach in here. Let me just show you. Here's our mix. You can look down in there. So there's a nice mix that we put together about 6 hours ago. And then here we go. Now can you see where there's a little bit of water coming out of my hand? Look, right here.
Stand over here.
Stand over there. Okay. See a little bit of water come out as I squeeze right here. That is proper field capacity. It's not too much. It's not by any means squirting out. And I'm having to squeeze pretty hard to get that little bit of water out of that. That right there, I dare say, is perfect field capacity. And this soil substrate is ready to start making cakes. So that's field capacity, how we get it, and even how to inspect it for yourself. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. Tomorrow, this same time, same bat channel, if the camera wants to swing over here, we're going to show some liquid culture inoculations. So 10:30 tomorrow, same time, same place. We're going to show some liquid culture inoculations and how we do that. But thank you for being here today. This is Pops at the Detroit Mush Lab. If you want to follow us on IG, from YouTube over here, if you feel like following us on IG, we're at Detroit_Mush Lab. And if you like what you saw in the video here today, give us a thumbs up on the like column.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Pops, peace, out. IG, out. That was all right, you guys? Over here live?
Still going.
Huh?
Still going.
Oh, that.
They're still saying goodbye to you here.
Oh, over here, there's still some people talking?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's all right.
All right. Hold on. Let me take a quick look.
Yeah.
There's my friends. Stay awesome, Mushroom Warriors. Thank you, Mount Mizzou. There you go. We'll talk about flushes and how to hydrate for more flushes at a future date. Pops, peace, we'll kill this one because this is going to go into the category. Have a beautiful day. Pops, peace, and Brock behind the camera. Out.